The day I sold my company for $48 million was the same day I realized my own daughter wanted to erase me from the world without leaving a fingerprint. My name is Gabriel Reyes. I'm 69 years old, and this is the story of how my family tried to turn me into a crazy old man on paper, just so they could steal everything I built. Before we go there, let me give you one rule for this story. In my world, betrayal doesn't always end in blood. Sometimes it ends in paperwork. Quick context. The old man with 48 million. For 35 years, I ran a biotech company called Neurolattice in Texas. We didn't do apps. We didn't do social media. We designed neurological compounds, drugs for epilepsy, cognitive disorders, things that decide whether someone can still recognize their own children or not. I started in a converted storage unit behind a strip mall with 3 second-hand computers and a coffee machine that never worked right. My wife, Elena, used to joke that the coffee had more chemicals than our lab. She was the smart one. Elena saw people for what they were long before I did. From the first dinner with the man who would become my son-in-law, she told me, "He doesn't look at Valeria, Gabrielle. He looks through her. He's staring at your last name and your company." I laughed. I told her she was being dramatic. I told her Marco Beltran was just ambitious. Then years went by. Elena got sick, and eventually she was gone. After that, a lot of things changed. My daughter Valeria changed the most. She had always been bright, funny, sharp. When she was little, she'd fall asleep on my office couch, surrounded by stacks of printed research, holding a highlighter she could barely grip. Once, when she was 8, she walked into a board meeting with a crooked ponytail and a pink backpack and announced, "Excuse me, Daddy needs 5 more minutes. He promised to watch my science project." The entire board laughed. I did too. I thought I was the kind of father who was always there. Later, I'd learned that being present in a room is not the same as teaching someone what loyalty actually means. Valeria grew up. She married Marco. They lived in a world I didn't recognize. Apartments in high-rise towers that changed every year, cars that cost more than my first lab, business trips that just looked like vacations on Instagram. Marco ran some kind of import-export business. That's what he always called it. Import-export. Never specifics, just vague words and expensive watches. I'm a numbers man. Numbers have a way of telling the truth even when people won't. Letters started showing up at my house with Marco's name on them. Collection notices, late payments. Wrong address, they'd say. Just a mix-up, they'd say. And when I asked Valeria, "Dad, you're overthinking it," she told me once, eyes hardening just a little. "You're getting paranoid. You read too many reports." That word stuck with me later. Paranoid. Because months after Elena's funeral, they drifted away. Fewer visits, fewer calls. My Sundays got very quiet. Until the rumors started. Rumors that a big European pharma group wanted to buy Neurolattice. Rumors of a $48 million deal. Suddenly, my Sundays weren't quiet anymore. Valeria and Marco showed up with wine, with hugs, with concern. "Dad, let us help you with the paperwork. You shouldn't handle so much at your age. Gabriel, you need someone younger who understands modern finance to structure all of this. I can help protect what you've built." Back then, I thought I was being given back my family. Now I know what was really happening. They weren't helping me protect my doors. They were trying to find the keys. The night at the Sky restaurant, I signed the deal on a Thursday afternoon. On Friday night, I took Valeria and Marco to celebrate at a restaurant called the Obsidian View. A glass box hung on top of a downtown skyscraper. The kind of place where the napkins have more texture than the food. We had the best table in the house, right by the floor-to-ceiling window. The city lights of Houston glowed under us like a circuit board. Marco lifted his glass first. "To Gabriel," he said, smiling too wide. "From a filthy little lab in a strip mall to $48 million. You're a monster, man." Everyone around us laughed. I've learned it's easier to insult someone if you wrap it in applause. Valeria smiled too. Perfect makeup, perfect dress. "We're proud of you, Dad," she said. But her eyes weren't proud. They were hungry. "And now that you're finally free," Marco continued, leaning forward, "there are things we should talk about. The distribution routes, the refrigerated containers, the logistics. It would be a waste to let all that infrastructure disappear just because you're retired now." I frowned. "All of that goes with the sale," I said. "The new company owns the shipping network, the containers, everything. It's out of my hands now." Marco shrugged, took a long sip of wine. "Just curious, old man. I'd hate to see efficient systems die." Right then, my phone buzzed. Zurich Private Bank, calling. I excused myself, walked past the glass wall into the quieter hallway lined with dark panels and abstract red paintings that looked like smeared blood. "Mr. Reyes," the voice said, polite and precise, "we're calling to confirm that the $48 million have been deposited into your main account. Congratulations." For a second, all the noise in my life went silent. 35 years of 7-day weeks, missed dinners and hospital coffee turned into a number on a screen. I hung up, breathed out, turned back to the restaurant, and walked straight into the boy who was about to save my life. The waiter's warning. He stood right in front of me, blocking the path back to my table. Maybe 23, 24 years old. Black vest, white shirt, hands shaking just enough to make the empty tray rattle. "Sir, Reyes?" he asked, voice low. "That's me," I said. "Something wrong?" He looked over my shoulder toward my table, then back at me. I know I shouldn't say this. I could get fired, but I saw your daughter." My chest tightened, not because of fear, because of focus. "Go on," I told him, using the same tone I used with nervous junior researchers. "Your son-in-law," he said, pointed at that painting over there, the big red one. He made some loud comment about the artist. It felt staged, like he wanted you both to look away at the same time. I pictured it the way Marco had pointed earlier. "As soon as you turned your head," the waiter continued, "your daughter moved really fast. She took a small brown glass vial out of her purse, twisted it open, and poured a fine white powder into your wine glass. Then she stirred it once, gently, and put the vial back." He didn't say, "I think." He didn't say, "maybe." He said, "She poured." "You're sure?" I asked. He swallowed hard. 100%, sir. I was right behind your table, refilling water. I saw the whole thing. It wasn't sugar. It wasn't a joke." My first reaction was not anger. Anger is hot. What I felt was cold, heavy, like a metal plate settling in my stomach. My mind went to work. If they wanted to kill me in a restaurant in public with witnesses, that would be sloppy. Too many cameras, too many questions. This wasn't about murder. This was about control. A subtle neurological collapse, confusion, slurred speech, maybe a seizure. Enough for doctors to say, he's not fit to manage his own life anymore. A guardianship, a court order, a signature that removes mine from all decisions. I looked the boy in the eye. "What's your name, son?" "Ivan," he said. "Ivan Carter." I took out my wallet. I didn't even count. I just felt the stack of bills and pressed it into his hand. "Ivan, as far as the restaurant is concerned," I said quietly, "you didn't see anything. You finish your shift, you go home, you tell no one. But as far as I'm concerned, you just saved my life." His eyes went wide. "Sir, I didn't do it for—" "I know," I said. "Here." I pulled out a simple business card. No job title, just my name and an old private phone number. "If you ever need help," I told him, "you call this number. And one more thing, Ivan." He looked up. "Don't ever believe the performance you see at tables like mine," I said. "People like me don't get to 48 million by being blind. You didn't wake me up tonight, you just changed the ending." He nodded, swallowed, and disappeared through a side door. "And before we go back to that table, let me tell you something. If you like stories where the villains think they're in control and then the script flips on them, you might want to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. This one gets darker." I walked back to my seat. If I had gone back as a hurt father, I would have lost. I went back as what I really am, a man who has spent his whole life planning 10 moves ahead. Switching the glasses, the smells hit me first. Truffle oil, rare steak, expensive wine. For the first time, all of it made me mildly sick. Valeria looked up, smile bright. "Everything okay, Dad?" she asked. "You look a little pale." "Just business," I said, sitting down. "The bank wanted to congratulate me, I guess." I picked up my glass, the one she had poisoned for me, turned it in my hand, watched the liquid move, set it down again. Not yet. Little comments from the past few weeks came back to me like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. "Dad, you're forgetting things a lot lately. You mixed up our dinner reservation. You never did that before." "Gabriel, it's dangerous to manage so much money at your age. One bad decision and everything could collapse. Maybe you should let someone younger handle it." They'd been rehearsing the story, planting the idea that my mind was slipping before they ever put anything in my drink. While Marco rambled about new European partners and distribution channels, a second waiter approached the table with a pitcher of water. He reached for Marco's glass. This was my window. I made my hand tremble just a little and bumped the glass as if by accident. Water exploded across the tablecloth and straight into Marco's lap. "Jesus, Gabriel," he snapped, jumping up. "I'm so sorry," I said, letting my shoulders sag. "These old hands, I'm tired." The waiter started apologizing. Valeria gasped, grabbing for napkins. In that 10 seconds of chaos, my hands moved. One smooth motion, I slid my poisoned glass out of the way of the spill. At the same time, I moved Valeria's clean glass into its place. When the table was wiped dry, the glasses had quietly traded lives. Valeria now had the drink meant to erase me. I had hers. "I really am sorry," I murmured, dabbing at the table. "Guess I'm not as sharp as I used to be." Marco and Valeria exchanged a look, smug, satisfied. They thought the plan was starting to work. I raised my glass. "To family," I said, locking eyes with my daughter. "And to everyone getting exactly what they deserve." Valeria lifted hers without hesitation. "To family," she echoed. She took a long, confident sip from the glass that should have destroyed my mind. 15 minutes later, her world started to come apart. When the poison hits the wrong person. It was subtle at first. Valeria blinked. Once, twice. Then she frowned, squinting at the lights. "Marco," she said slowly, cutting him off mid-sentence. "Are the lights brighter?" He chuckled, annoyed. "It's a rooftop restaurant, babe. Everything's bright." "No, it's too bright," she muttered. She pressed her fingers against her temple. Her words began to drag, like her tongue weighed twice as much. "I don't feel good." Marco's smile died. "Val, don't start. You've had, what, half a glass of wine?" She pushed back from the table, tried to stand, and grabbed the chair as the room spun. Then her legs buckled. Her wine glass shattered on the floor as she collapsed sideways onto the velvet booth. Her arms jerked with small, ugly convulsions. The obsidian view wasn't built for screaming. The sound cut through the careful hush like a blade. I dropped my napkin and stood up so fast my chair slammed into the floor. "Valeria!" I shouted. "Somebody call 911. She's not breathing right." Marco didn't rush to her. He didn't grab her hand. He didn't check her pulse. He just stared. Not at his wife, at his plan dying in front of him. That was all I needed to see. I dropped to my knees beside her, grabbed her cold, limp hand. For one split second, something inside me cracked. This was still my little girl, the one who used to fall asleep next to my calculations. But crack or no crack, there was another truth. She had chosen a vial over her father. The restaurant manager rushed over. A server was already on the phone with emergency services. Marco snapped out of it. Unfortunately, he didn't snap into being a decent husband. He snapped into damage control. "She's fine," he said quickly. "This happens sometimes. She mixes her anxiety meds with alcohol. We'll just take her home." He reached for her. The manager blocked him. "Sir, you can't move her. The ambulance is already on its way." Marco's mask slipped. "You don't tell me what to do with my wife," he hissed. He turned toward me, eyes wide and wild. "Gabriel, tell them. You know how she is. Help me get her out of here." I looked at him like he was a stranger. "If you touch her," I told the manager, loud enough for everyone around to hear, "I'll sue this place into the ground. No one moves her until paramedics get here." For the first time that night, I let the boardroom voice come out. The one that closes deals and cuts jobs and doesn't tremble. The sirens wailed closer, a distant scream slicing through the city noise. To most people, that sound means fear. To me, right then, it sounded like the beginning of justice. The hospital, the truth, has a name. The ER at St. Luke's General smelled like bleach, sweat, and burned coffee. Valeria was rushed into a treatment room, wires and tubes quickly covering what was left of her dignity. I stayed just inside the doorway. Marco hovered in the hall, talking fast, trying to steer the story. "Shellfish allergy," he told the first nurse. "She had scallops. She's had reactions before. She just needs epinephrine. She'll be fine." The doctor on call didn't look like a glamorous TV surgeon. He looked like a man who'd worked 3 nights in a row. Dark circles, scrubs wrinkled, eyes clear and sharp. He checked her breathing, her skin, her pupils. No hives, no swelling, no blocked airway. Just tiny pinpoints for pupils and a brain that wasn't answering. "This is not an allergic reaction," he said flatly. "This looks like a drug overdose. Full talk screen now." "I don't consent to that," Marco cut in. "I'm her husband. I say no tests. Just treat the allergy and let us go home." The doctor turned slowly, looked at him for 3 hard seconds. "Your consent is not required when your wife is about to die," he said. "If you interfere again, I'll have security remove you from this department. Do you understand me?" Marco shut up. For the moment, 2 hours later, the same doctor came back, holding a chart. He didn't look at Marco. He looked at me. "Mr. Reyes," he said, "toxicology came back. Your daughter has a near-lethal dose of olanzapine in her system." Marco blinked. What? I've never heard of that." "Olanzapine," the doctor repeated. "It's a powerful antipsychotic. We use it to treat schizophrenia and severe bipolar disorder. It's not an anxiety med. It absolutely should not be taken with alcohol, and it definitely shouldn't be taken in this dose." He exhaled and his voice hardened. With numbers like this, I'm legally required to notify the police. This could be a suicide attempt, or something much worse. Marco panicked, not because his wife almost died, because the story was leaving his control. He started babbling about stress, about her being dramatic, about her probably grabbing the wrong pills. I didn't say anything, because I had just gained something priceless. The white powder had a name, olanzapine, the perfect drug to turn a functioning mind into a courtroom tragedy. Valeria survived that night. The doctors stabilized her, then moved her to a psychiatric observation floor. The plan, however, was bleeding out. They just didn't know it yet. And if you're still here listening, you're probably the kind of person who likes seeing entire schemes crumble. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed. Stories like this one are just getting started. The laptop and Project Cain. Marco insisted on staying at the hospital. He paced, made calls, muttered into his phone. He used the word lawyer a lot. I watched him for a while, then did something I've never pretended to do well. I acted. I hunched my shoulders, let my hands tremble a little. "I can't breathe in here," I whispered. "I need air. I might go home or just walk. I don't know." Marco looked almost relieved. "Of course, Gabriel. You need rest. I'll handle everything with the doctors. I'll call you if anything changes." I nodded and shuffled out like a man who'd lost his compass. The second the sliding doors closed behind me and the cold air hit my face, my back straightened. I didn't go home. I called a cab. "Where to?" the driver asked. "Westbrook Heights," I said. "Oakdale Lane, big gray house on the corner." My daughter's house, the one I helped them buy the down payment for, the one they flaunted online with the caption, "Hard work pays off." Marco liked to think he was clever. He hid the spare key under a decorative rock by the back door. I liked to think I was old-fashioned. I remembered details. I stepped inside without turning on the lights. The house looked like a furniture catalog. Cold, perfect, empty. I went straight to the home office. Valeria had posted pictures of it once. My little corner to organize life. The laptop on the desk was open. No password. That told me everything about who she thought she needed to protect herself from. I opened her email and started searching. Dad got me sentimental messages. Guardianship got nothing. Then I thought of something darker. I typed, "Project Cain." 3 email threads popped up, between Valeria, Marco, and someone named Dr. Rodrigo Vela. Subject, Project Cain. Vela. For the court to grant urgent guardianship, there has to be a clear triggering event. The right dose of olanzapine can mimic sudden dementia or a stroke. I'll write the prescription under a different name and send the medication. It must be administered without him knowing. Valeria. We'll do it at the celebration dinner. He won't suspect a thing. He trusts me completely. Marco will distract him. Marco. You sign the paperwork after the ER visit. The hearing is already scheduled. Once guardianship is granted, I'll have control of all accounts before the federal audit touches any shipments. No one will trace my side of the business. My stomach turned. I opened the attached PDF in the last email. Emergency petition for guardianship of Gabriel Reyes. Petitioners, Marco Beltran, son-in-law, Valeria Reyes, daughter. Reason, rapid onset cognitive decline, confusion, poor financial judgment. Supported by medical testimony of treating physician Dr. Rodrigo Vela. Hearing date, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. I checked the time on the microwave. 3:41 a.m. They had it all ready. The drug to make me look insane. The doctor to swear I was incompetent. The court hearing to hand them power over every cent I had. the federal audit coming for Neuro-Lattice shipping records, which would reveal what Marco had really been moving inside my clean containers. They didn't just want my money. They wanted the system I built to quietly smuggle their crimes, then leave me drooling in a care home while they disappeared. I closed the laptop. I didn't cry. That part of me felt empty. I just said quietly to the expensive wallpaper, "Not today. Not ever." The shark lawyer. By 4:15 a.m., I was in the underground parking garage of a downtown office tower. I tapped in an old security code on the side door, rode a private elevator to the top floor, and walked straight into an office with floor-to-ceiling windows and a desk that cost more than my first lab equipment. Hector Navarro was already there, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie in his pocket, coffee in his hand. "If this isn't national security, I'm going back to bed," he said without turning around. "It's worse," I told him. "It's domestic." He looked over his shoulder, saw my face, and just pointed at the chair. I told him everything, from Elena's warnings to Marco's debts, to the restaurant, to Ivan and the glass, to the fall, to the ER, to olanzapine, to Project Cain, to the 8 a.m. hearing. He didn't interrupt. He didn't gasp. He didn't say, "Oh my God." He just listened, hands steepled under his chin, like I was presenting quarterly numbers. When I finished, he asked one question. "Do you have copies?" I slid my phone across the desk with photos of emails, screenshots, the petition document. I also set down a flash drive I'd grabbed on my way out of Valeria's office. "Everything," I said. A slow, cold smile spread across his face. "Good," Navarro said. "Then we're not going to defend you. We're going to ambush them." He picked up his phone, dialed a number labeled only Paredes. "I need everything you can find on a Dr. Rodrigo Vela," he said. "Licenses, debts, disciplinary actions, gambling, affairs, offshore accounts. I don't care. I need leverage 30 minutes ago." He hung up and looked back at me. "Gabriel, this stopped being about greedy relatives the moment that doctor wrote a fake prescription and your containers got involved. This is organized crime with a family twist." We sat in silence for a few minutes. I stared at the city beginning to glow with the first light. He broke the quiet. "You know," Navarro said, "for a smart man, you ignored your wife for a long time." "I did," I admitted. I told him about the night Elena sat on the edge of the bed, book closed in her lap, and told me, "He's not building anything, Gabriel. He's just taking. He's teaching our daughter that that's enough." We fought that night. It was the worst argument we ever had. I accused her of being jealous of Valeria's happiness. She never brought it up again. A few years later, she was gone. And 2 weeks after her funeral, Marco asked me to co-sign on a new car for Valeria. I did it. Now I was here. At 5:20 a.m., Navarro's private line rang. He listened, wrote a few numbers down. His expression got even harder. "It's worse than we thought," he said, hanging up. "Your Dr. Vela owes about $300,000 in gambling debts to an offshore betting operation owned through shell companies by, guess who?" He turned the paper so I could see the name. Marco Beltran Holdings, LLC. Marco didn't just owe the doctor money. Marco owned the doctor. "He's not a partner," Navarro said. "He's a puppet, and puppets break fast under pressure." He closed his leather briefcase. "It's 6:10, he said. "Let's go ruin their morning." The hearing. When the script flips, the family court floor of the courthouse smelled like old coffee, floor wax, and stale arguments. Outside courtroom 4C, Navarro and I stood where we could see through the narrow glass panel in the door. Inside, I saw Marco in his best charcoal suit, tie perfectly knotted, sweat already darkening the collar. Next to him was a young attorney with too much hair gel and not enough experience. On the first bench sat Dr. Rodrigo Vela. He looked like a man waiting for a firing squad, eyes darting, hands clenched, forehead shiny with fear. "Not yet," Navarro murmured. "Let them hang themselves first." We waited. Inside, I heard the bailiff's muffled voice. "All rise. Family court is now in session, the Honorable Judge Carson presiding." We listened as chairs scraped and people sat. "We're here on an emergency guardianship petition for a Mr. Gabriel Reyes," the judge said. Marco's lawyer started his performance. "Your Honor, my client and his wife, Ms. Valeria Reyes, have been watching Mr. Reyes decline for months. Confusion, paranoia, financial recklessness. He recently sold his company for $48 million and began exhibiting violent outbursts. Last night, in a public restaurant, he had an episode, attacked his daughter, and then disappeared. No one knows where he is. We fear for his safety and the safety of others." I glanced at Navarro. He just raised one eyebrow. "Therefore," the lawyer continued dramatically, "we are asking for urgent guardianship so my client can protect Mr. Reyes and his estate before irreparable harm is done. His treating physician, Dr. Rodrigo Vela, is here to testify to his mental decline." That was our cue. Navarro pushed open the door. It banged against the stopper like a gunshot. "Apologies for the disruption, Your Honor," he boomed. "It seems someone gave us the wrong time for this hearing." Every head turned. I walked in behind him, not in pajamas, not confused, in a tailored suit, tie straight, shoes shined, eyes clear. Marco went the color of printer paper. Vela made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. The judge squinted. "Mr. Reyes, I presume," he said. "Yes, Your Honor," I replied, taking a seat next to Navarro. "Present, accounted for, and apparently much less missing than reported." The judge turned slowly toward Marco's lawyer. "Mr. Davis," he said, his voice tightening, "you just told this court your client's father-in-law was missing and potentially dangerous. Would you like to explain why he's currently sitting right there, looking very much not missing?" The lawyer stammered. "Your Honor, we were informed he'd run off, that he was confused, that—" "Uh-huh," the judge said. "We'll circle back to that. For now, you wanted to call your witness?" "Yes, Your Honor," the attorney said quickly. "The petitioners called Dr. Rodrigo Vela." The doctor shuffled to the witness stand like a man walking underwater. He swore to tell the truth with a voice that cracked on the last word. "Dr. Vela," the lawyer began, "are you Mr. Reyes's treating physician?" "Yes," Vela said. "I have conducted private evaluations at the request of his son-in-law." "And in your professional opinion, what is Mr. Reyes's mental state?" Vela fixed his gaze on the back wall, avoiding my face. "He shows signs of rapid cognitive decline," he said. "Paranoia, confusion, impaired judgment. In my opinion, he is not fit to manage complex financial matters. He is vulnerable and easily manipulated." "So you believe guardianship is appropriate?" "Yes. No further questions, Your Honor." The lawyer sat down, looking smug. Navarro got to his feet slowly. If sharks smiled, they'd smile like that. "Just a few questions, Doctor," Navarro said. "You said you're Mr. Reyes's treating physician. Interesting, because here," he held up a folder, "I have Mr. Reyes's medical records for the last 20 years. His actual primary care doctor, Dr. Montiel, examined him 3 months ago and found him perfectly healthy. Your name does not appear anywhere. When exactly did you start treating him?" Vela swallowed. It was a private consultation, he said, arranged by his son-in-law for cognitive concerns. Ah, so you're not his long-term doctor. You're a side doctor brought in by the man who stands to gain from this guardianship. Navarro nodded as if that made sense. When was the last time you saw Mr. Reyes personally, doctor? Vela seized on the lifeline. This morning, he said quickly, at his home. He was very agitated, confused. He ran out of the house. That's why we were so worried. This morning, Navarro repeated. Around what time exactly? About 7 a.m. Navarro glanced at the court clock. Interesting, he said, because at 7 a.m. Mr. Reyes was sitting in my office downtown, drinking bad coffee and preparing for this hearing. So tell us, doctor, if he was with me. Who exactly did you see? A pulse jumped in Vela's throat. I must have gotten the time wrong, he muttered. It might have been yesterday. It's been a long night. I'm sure it has, Navarro said evenly. Let's switch topics. Doctor, how much do you owe in gambling debts? Objection, Marco's lawyer exploded. Relevance? Directly relevant to motive, Your Honor, Navarro shot back. If this man is financially owned by the petitioner, it matters. The judge nodded. Overruled. Answer the question, doctor. Vela's face crumpled. I don't know the exact... Navarro slapped a blown-up bank statement onto an easel. The name and numbers were hard to ignore. Let me help you, he said. Roughly $300,000, all owed to an offshore betting house. And who owns the shell company behind that betting house? He turned the page to show another name. Why, it's our very own Mr. Marco Beltran. The courtroom sucked in a collective breath. Doctor, Navarro leaned in, voice low and sharp. Isn't it true that Mr. Beltran bought your debt? That he controls whether you keep your license or lose everything? That he paid you through a fake consulting account to write exactly the report he needed? Vela broke. Not slowly. He shattered. He said he'd ruin me, the doctor blurted out. He said no one would care if some old man got declared incompetent. He already had the drug. He gave me the prescription details. He told me what to say. He set up the hearing, everything. I just signed. Marco shot to his feet. He's lying, he yelled, pointing at me. They're working together. The crazy old man tried to kill his own daughter. I'm the victim here. Sit down, Mr. Beltran, the judge snapped, pounding his gavel. One more outburst and you'll be the one leaving in handcuffs. Then he turned to me. Mr. Reyes, the judge said, his voice calmer now. You've been painted as senile and dangerous. Your doctor just admitted to being blackmailed. Your son-in-law is accusing you of attempted murder. Do you have anything to say? I stood, straightened my jacket, looked not just at the judge, but at everyone, the gallery, the lawyers, the man who married my daughter for my money. Yes, Your Honor, I said. Only this. The truth takes fewer words than their lies. I told the story, not with tears, not with dramatics, like a report. The dinner, the painting distraction, Ivan's warning, the white powder, the switch, Valeria collapsing, the olanzapine, the emails, Project Cain, the guardianship petition, the upcoming federal audit on neurolattice shipping lanes. My son-in-law, I finished, has been using my company's clean reputation to move illegal products through my shipping routes. This sale triggers an audit that will go over every container, every shipment. He knew he was about to be exposed. His plan wasn't to protect me. It was to drug me, have his pet doctor declare me incompetent, and gain control over $48 million before the audit hit. Then disappear and let my senility take the blame for whatever came out. For a second, no one spoke. Then Marco lunged. He half climbed over the attorney table, trying to get to me, spitting curses. He didn't make it. Two men in plain dark suits who'd been sitting quietly in the back row moved as one. They tackled him to the floor. One of them pulled out a badge. "Special Agent Collins, FBI," he said, not bothering to raise his voice. "Mr. Navarro contacted us this morning. We were very curious to hear today's testimony." He turned to Marco. "Marco Beltran, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, illegal use of medical infrastructure, and bribery of a licensed physician. You have the right to remain silent." As they cuffed him, he twisted his head toward me. "This is your fault," he screamed. "I'll take you down with me, old man." I just watched as they dragged him out of the room, a suit and a tie and a mouth full of threats. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow and strangely clean. The war was over, but the wounded weren't all in handcuffs. If you're still here, you probably like seeing how far these stories go. So yeah, if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens when the dust settles. The end game isn't always where you think it is. The daughter who chose the wrong side. Hours later, I walked down a much quieter hallway. Psychiatric ward, pastel walls, heavy doors. A police officer stood guard outside one of them. He stepped aside when I gave my name. Valeria was sitting on the bed, hospital gown, hair messy, IV line taped to her arm. The TV on the wall showed footage of Marco being shoved into a federal car in handcuffs. The sound was muted, but the headline said enough. "Businessman arrested in guardianship fraud and smuggling investigation." Tears were streaking down her face. When she saw me, she flinched, then straightened up. "Dad," she whispered, "I woke up and saw that on TV. What did you do to him?" Even now, her first instinct was to paint herself as the victim. I walked to the window, looked at the parking lot below, cars coming and going, people living lives that had nothing to do with any of this. "I didn't do anything to him," I said. "He did it to himself. All I did was tell the truth." Silence stretched between us. "I didn't know," she said eventually, voice shaking. "I didn't know about any smuggling or audits or whatever you're talking about. I swear, You just wanted the 48 million, I finished for her, turning to look at her. "Maybe you didn't know every crime he committed in my name. I'll give you that much. But you knew about the guardianship hearing. You knew a doctor was being paid to certify that I was insane. You knew tonight was the night he drugged me. And you still opened that vial over my glass." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Just little gasps. "He said you were losing it," she whispered finally. "He said you were going to blow everything, that you didn't see what you were doing, that it was the only way to protect you, protect what you built." "And you believed him," I said, "the man who has never held a real job, over the man who worked 35 years to give you everything you have." Her shoulders shook. "Am I going to prison?" she asked. "Am I going to lose everything?" I thought about Elena, about that tiny version of Valeria sleeping on my office couch. Then I thought about the email that said, "He trusts me completely. He won't suspect a thing." "No," I said slowly. "You're not going to prison." Relief flashed in her eyes, so fast you might miss it if you weren't looking for it. "I'm going to spend money on you one more time," I continued. "I'm going to hire the best lawyers I can find. They'll argue that you were manipulated by an abusive husband, that the doctor pressured you, that you were in shock. With the right narrative, they'll keep you out of a cell." "Dad, thank you, But," I said, raising my hand, "that money will not touch your hands. As of this morning, every cent of my assets is in a trust." I am the sole trustee. I watched the color drain from her face. You will have no access to accounts, no credit cards, no cars, no inheritance. Not until I decide you've become someone else entirely. And if that day never comes, then so be it. How am I supposed to live? She whispered. How am I supposed to eat? Where am I supposed to go? You'll work, I said quietly. Like the rest of the world, like your mother and I used to, years before you were born. I held her gaze. You already have a job, I said. It starts when they discharge you. Night shifts, basic pay, enough to survive, nothing more. She stared at me, stunned. Where? I didn't answer. She would find out. I walked to the door. Her voice cracked behind me. Am I still your daughter? My hand froze on the handle. Legally, I said. Yes, but the girl who poured those pills into my drink. That girl is not the child your mother and I raised. I left. I did not look back. 6 months later, the only kind of justice that sticks. 6 months later, the house I'd bought with Elena looked exactly the same. The couch, the old wooden table, the crooked little painting we bought when we had no money and too much hope, all still there. The only new thing was the silence, but I'd made my peace with that. I was sitting in Elena's old armchair, a folder in my hand, when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ivan standing there. No waiter uniform this time, dark blazer, simple button-up shirt, a slightly scuffed briefcase in his hand. Mr. Reyes, he said, smiling nervously. Good afternoon. Come in, Ivan. I had hired him a month after that night. Not out of pity, out of respect. He was now my personal financial manager, working with a salary 10 times what the Obsidian View paid him, and earning every cent. He sat down at the table, opened the briefcase, and slid a report toward me. This is the latest update on the Elena Foundation, he said. The Elena Foundation was what I did with the first 5 million. We turned an old building on the edge of the city into a transitional shelter for people discharged from psychiatric hospitals with nowhere to go. People who actually needed help. People whose families weren't lining up to steal from them. How's it doing? I asked. Ivan smiled a little. Better than expected, he said. And as you requested, one specific staff member's performance review is on page 3. I flipped through. There it was. Employee, Valeria Reyes, sanitation, night shift. Completed her second full week. Quiet, reserved. Follows instructions. Slow at first, but extremely thorough. Restrooms and hallways are noticeably cleaner on the nights she works. No incidents. No complaints. I stared at the words for a long time. I pictured her in cheap scrubs and rubber gloves, scrubbing bathrooms in a building full of people who had truly lost their minds. Not because of a scam, but because life had ripped them apart. Make sure she gets paid on time, I said. Every cent she earns, no more, no less. Of course, Ivan said. We went over projections, maintenance needs, possible expansions. At one point, he looked up. You know, he said carefully, most men in your position would have either put her in prison or taken her back home like nothing happened. Most men in my position, I replied, aren't asked to disappear so their children can cash a check. We finished the meeting. After Ivan left, I sat alone in the quiet. Outside, the tree Elena and I planted the year Valeria was born was losing its leaves, branches bare against a winter sky. I thought about everything I'd lost, my illusion of what my daughter was, the future I thought we'd share, the family dinners that would never happen. And then I thought about what I hadn't lost. My mind, my name, my right to decide what justice looked like. Real power isn't having $48 million in a bank. Real power is being able to say, No, I won't let you turn me into the crazy old man in your story. If I go down, it will be on my own terms. And if you fall, you'll fall hard enough to remember why. Some people answer betrayal with bullets. Some people answer it by destroying themselves. I chose something else. I chose to make sure that every night, when my daughter pushes a mop down those hospital hallways, she walks past the people she almost turned me into and understands that she is one of the reasons they needed a safe place to land. Maybe one day she'll become someone different, someone Elena would recognize. Maybe not. That part is up to her, but I'm the one who made sure she didn't get to skip the consequences. And you, if you were in Gabriel Reyes's place, would you have done the same? Would you forgive, burn it all to the ground, or build the kind of quiet revenge that doesn't need blood, only time? If this story made you think about family, money, and what justice really looks like, subscribe and stick around. The next story might be even worse. I thought about everything I'd lost, my illusion of what my daughter was, the future I thought we'd share, the family dinners that would never happen. And then I thought about what I hadn't lost: my mind, my name, my right to decide what justice looked like. Real power isn't having $48 million in a bank. Real power is being able to say, no, I won't let you turn me into the crazy old man in your story. If I go down, it will be on my own terms. And if you fall, you'll fall hard enough to remember why. Some people answer betrayal with bullets. Some people answer it by destroying themselves. I chose something else. I chose to make sure that every night, when my daughter pushes a mop down those hospital hallways, she walks past the people she almost turned me into and understands that she is one of the reasons they needed a safe place to land. Maybe one day she'll become someone different, someone Elena would recognize. Maybe not. That part is up to her, but I'm the one who made sure she didn't get to skip the consequences. And you, if you were in Gabriel Reyes's place, would you have done the same? Would you forgive, burn it all to the ground, or build the kind of quiet revenge that doesn't need blood, only time? If this story made you think about family, money, and what justice really looks like, subscribe and stick around. The next story might be even worse.